All right. Hey, there we are. Hello. That's Mr.
Are
Betcher
we
right
live?
there. Oh, we are live. Yes. This ain't post production, baby. This is 100% real times here. So that's okay. As long as the audio works on Zoom, we'll work it out accordingly. So yeah. But how you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
Am I coming through loud and clear?
You are coming through 5 by 5, so I can definitely see things. Thank you, all of our viewers that are currently watching. I started a little late because we ended up having dinner a bit on the late side. So, but yeah. So, for those of you who are watching us, thank you for watching. I made sure the calendar invite was up and ready to go for everybody. I am Brian Brake, one of the co-hosts and co-creators of the BrakeSec podcast, which some of you have been watching me ramble on for the last almost 16 days, somewhat. So, my co-host, of course, is the other alliteratively named Brian Betcher.
That you're going to say illiterate,
No, okay,
which
so
I feel like sometimes.
so I'm a bit ignorant. I don't know why, but I never quite understood what alliterative means. I was about, I don't know. I watched Jeopardy, and a lot of the times the question is like, oh, this alliterative 2-word name, and I was like, I don't know this one, and they're like, oh, it's like Ansel Adams or something. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that was the name of the painter. I didn't get the idea that alliterative was like first initial and last initial. And then one day I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna go Google what the hell alliterative means. And they're like, oh, it's first Ansel Adams or Brian Brake or Brian Betcher, where it's 2 words and they mean it starts with the same word. And I was like, that's it, that's all it is. Okay, well,
Starts with the
cool.
same letter, you mean?
Starts with the same letter. Yeah. Well, hello, DFIR Jesse. Did Jesse find, I think, emote, vote, yeah, Twitch Glow. Okay. I thought DFIR Jesse might have saw, or might have found some of our emotes. So today I spent the day working on some emotes that we can put up in chat. So if anybody is looking for some fun emotes, you can, play around with those. And we have different ones based on, like if you put in some Twitch bits, we have different levels of support on that. And yeah, so I spent the day making emotes and icons and cool things like that, and burning up my GIMP and playing around with things. So just as an aside, oh wait, let me turn off my frames per second here. All right. So we have some more followers. So I just want to say and recognize Abraxas. I'm assuming ABR4XA5_ is Abraxas. Not did ZEJ. DFIR Jesse. Hello. Thank you for following. Is that I? No, that's NLF99 and EXUAH. Exua. Oh, see, this really plays to my strengths of being able to pronounce people's names correctly.
That's right. Very, very strong at that, aren't you?
Oh, it's my superpower. It's my superpower. Jeffy Bleffy, and let me see who else. Skyman AC, Cybertubes, and YTT Retro. Okay, YTT Retro is one of our moderators, so I know we hit our maximum there. So we got like, I don't know, half a dozen, 7, 8 new followers. So that's pretty awesome. I appreciate everybody hanging out. So. Yeah. So back to the alliterative thing. I called because I'm getting a medical procedure done. Nothing major. My doctor just wants to do a baseline, what they call a calcium CT scan. So, called up this Overlake medical place to, I'll be making a guest appearance, I guess, at a medical building, on the 15th. But, I gave her my name and she's like, oh, you're like a superhero name. And I was like, what? She's like, well, it's like Clark Kent, Peter Parker. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. She's like, your superhero name is Brian Brake. And I was like, no, I'm not a superhero. no, tell me more about how I'm a superhero. And but yeah, I hadn't realized, the Peter Parker, Brian Brake, Clark Kent thing was, I actually didn't realize because I didn't understand alliterativeness. So yeah, it was kind of funny. But yeah, anybody ever tell you that? Like you had a superhero name, Mr. Betcher? No?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, your loss. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, I haven't had that happen to me yet. So
no, that's okay. That's all right.
Add that to my bucket list.
Yeah. So can I ask you a question? The last few times we've had you on the show, you've been in your living room. Now, for those of you who listen to the audio podcast, obviously you don't get to see the backgrounds that we're in. I tend to not blur my background because, I don't want, really the only thing you see back here is like a bunch of protein bars and stuff. And it's not cool like a lot of the Twitch streamers are. But Mr. Betcher normally podcasts, or in this case would be streaming from his bedroom. In this case, so why the change, sir? Why the change?
Well, it's weird. You got the bed in the background and the TV and a bunch of windows. It's not conducive to video.
Okay.
So this is a little bit more. It's sort of decorative. All right?
It's nice. So yeah.
It's kept somewhat seasonal or whatever. Honeybees are more spring or summer, but
I feel bad by not if I blur my background. So yeah, so there you go. There's my protein bars, and there's my other protein bars, and because I don't eat lunch like normal people, I take my walk at lunch, and I come back and I got to grab something real quick. That's my Puffy. He's my OpenBSD mascot, and that's a cat palm up there. I actually, I'm kind of a grower of things. So, but yeah. Anyway, how are you doing, Mr. Betcher? How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, work is challenging, especially with the the events in Eastern Europe. We've had some uptick in threat intel, news, and things of that nature. But yeah, we're holding on.
What so we don't really advertise who we all work for here. Miss Berlin does, but she's the market. She's somewhat of the marketing arm of Blumera. And so if you listen to our audio podcast, we did some sponsorships with them last year. But what are things that you're worried about from in your organization? Is it just data loss, or are you worried about the being used in some way, like your resources getting taken? I mean, what is the big threats for you on this?
Well, overall landscape is increased, right? You have a lot of funding apparently going into hacktivist groups. We don't know who's funding them, but at least I don't know. And so that there's an uptick there. They're getting increased resources, right? Okay. So you got to watch out or be vigilant in that respect.
Right.
If your company is a worldwide company, they may have resources either in Russia or close to Russia, right, or Ukraine. Right. Okay. And so you got to be there's risk there. Right. If you have the internet cut off or something like that, or sanctions are posed on your interests in that part of the world by either side, there could be loss of productivity. Vendors might be dissuaded to do business with you, or third parties, if you have interests in either country or whatnot. So
okay.
So yeah, there's some risk like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Oh well, I've disappeared. 1 second. I'm sharing a screen because some of the things that came up. Let me double check what's going on here with the Zoom screen here. Okay, well, this may be a non-sharing screen event. So there we go. Yeah, sorry about that, y'all. Working.
It's a work in progress. Work in progress.
It's always a work in progress. Is it? Did you? Yeah. Okay, now the whole screen is gone, so now people can't see us. So now it's like theater of the mind. It's almost like being back on a thing there. So, okay. Well, I've messed this up. I do apologize to all of our listeners. I was and viewers. I can just hear people, going away now. So there we go. Okay, we're back. Sorry. Well, yeah. The interesting thing is, I know a lot of companies have been affected because a lot of folks in Eastern Europe, Poland, Romania, what have you. There's a lot of QA going on over there, or a lot of code checking, or developers are over there as well. So if you're in a very development heavy house, in this case, you might have you might have to change your timeline to release, or you may have committed a bunch of code to your environment, and there's nobody there to do QA or run QA tests. So a lot of companies are having to scramble to find other assets, or to retask their non Eastern European or Ukraine folks for other work. I've even seen where they've asked developers to stop developing and also do QA at the same time. So it's quite interesting to have to see that and have to retool on the fly this quickly. So yeah. Let me see, drive.google. I'm going to put up a Google Doc link for myself and Mr. Betcher so that we can review maybe some stories or something. So Mr. Betcher,
what are we going to talk about? So I don't have a cheat sheet. Can you send me that?
Like I said, I've not been slacking. I just I have been slacking, but I've also been Discording too. So Mr. Betcher, do you enjoy the Discords? Do you do Discord?
Rarely, but I have done Discords.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask is, one of the things that we've done, let me see, the date is 13 March. So I just want to make sure we get us a proper setup on the folder here.
Have you Discorded the Slacks?
I have done a Discord. Yes, we have a Discord. I was announcing it yesterday during our 90-minute or so stream that I did. And also did a bit of work on making sure that it's secure, as secure as we can make it and still be usable. And share news. So yeah, one of the things that I've always seen with Twitch streamers specifically, Twitch and Discord, they go together like peanut butter and shrimp sauce. And no, not shrimp sauce, it's jelly. But the big thing is finding ways to continue to work with our community and build our community. I tried doing it with the existing Slack that we had, but the free version of Slack is just too prohibitive to be able to do so, including things like lack of integrations, key integrations. It seems like Discord is just the better way to go. It's free. You can, set up as many integrations as you want. So we have set up our Discord. I will post an invite to all who would wish to join us. I actually put it in the Twitch or the Twitter post that we just put up. Excuse me. Sneezing.
Bless you.
Ooh, yeah. I put it in the tweet that we put out just recently. And there you go. All right. So let me pull up the chat. There he goes. I love having the chat in its own window now with Zoom. So anyway, so if you are interested in joining our Zoom, our Discord, what we have is we have a code of conduct. I actually I set that up along with some automation to set up roles and things. I've also spent the weekend working on the revamping of our Patreon. Mr. Betcher, you're aware of our Patreon, right?
I am.
Okay.
That was one of the first things we set up you did a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah. And well, the big issue is I have never given any hint or indication that it's nothing more than a tip jar for all intents and purposes. I didn't try to sell it as, oh, well, if you sign up for the $20, you're gonna, light's gonna shine out of your butt and you're gonna, solve all your problems. It was more a tip jar of, hey, you can support us. Podcast is always going to be free. But we do appreciate people who want to put something in for our time and effort, building community and what have you. I wanted to actually do something with that because I've seen some conflicting reports and about is it better to use Twitch bits and subscriptions and those kinds of things, or use Patreon, and the jury's still kind of out. So we already had the Patreon set up. We already have people who are in the Patreon, and I don't want to make them feel like, well, thanks for the memories, and then we're going to kick you to the curb. So I want to try to make it so that they feel like they're going to be getting something for, their patronage. They're helping us out. So I've been working on helping with figuring out what we should do with that. And one of the people, so I didn't know this, Mr. Betcher. I don't know if you know this. Shecky, Shecky. On Mike K on the Slack, he's been giving us he's been there since the beginning, almost as long as you've been there. And so, we made him our first advisor on our advisory board, which is a specific Patreon level. I believe it's the $10 level at this point, where you get a fancy handle. We give you access to a specific Discord channel, and you're actually going to help us direct our community. So we're going to have a limited number of slots for that. But if you are interested in helping to make a difference and helping to build out the community, our Patreon level, I believe we called it advisor. I changed it from CSO to advisor. But you'll get a fancy tag in our Discord. You'll have access to other channels, and you'll be helping us with events. You'll have access to events and other things that are coming up that I'm hoping that we can work on and get started. So Mr. Betcher, by dint of being co-host, he has access to the advisory board as well. He's also a member of the InfoSec Education Foundation. But I'm looking forward to that, because one thing I'd like to do, like with you, Mr. Betcher, and you and Miss Berlin do a lot with defense. I mean, you're like right there on the front lines, which is great. You being somebody who works for an organization that is probably constantly under attack, I would say, or more often than not. And then Miss Berlin, of course, works for a SaaS provider for incident management and logging and those kinds of things, and trying to create a platform that people can use for logging and taking in logs. So we want to capitalize on that. And of course you do LogMD, which is like a super tool for Windows logging and forensics stuff. So ideally, we want to do some more classes, events, book club. I want to get book club back up and running. So, I should probably start the Discord. So,
yeah, we're almost constantly under attack. I mean, I was looking at that today. We've got a lot of web attacks coming in every week. We review the numbers. Email attacks, endpoint attacks, network attacks, it's almost, like I said, constant, and
right.
We're not that big a company either.
Right.
So I can imagine like some of the bigger entities out there, just they have their tools out there thwarting attacks every second.
Right.
It's just the way it is now.
Huh. Yeah, what gets me about that is there's some dogged persistence there. It's like and they have all the time in the world to do that stuff, right? I mean, if they don't get in today, they'll just put y'all on the back burner until something else happens, or another vulnerability comes out, and they'll be like, let's go revisit that and see if we can gain access to them using this vulnerability or what have you. So they just have to wait.
When you have tools like Shodan, and I'm sure there's many others,
right?
They can just have an automatic fingerprint, and so when an attacker researches a particular attack, and they feel comfortable with what's the word, launching the attack,
right,
and they've done their homework, they've practiced, and then they can get in those websites, and maybe it's subscription only, but the companies that scan the internet looking for versions, right? So basically you're threat modeled for them, and then they can launch their attacks on you, and if you're vulnerable, you're gonna get popped.
Right.
The Log4j, perfect example. All they have to do is search for that particular attack, and they've got remote desktop.
Right.
So in that case, that probably wasn't out there originally, but it's easy to scan for it. So
right. Yeah. The issue I see is that, if there's a vulnerability, these folks are laying in wait. If you are a target and you think you're all hardened and everything, it could be just the very next CVE that comes in that boom, you're
and you don't even have to be a target. You just have to have the wrong version at the right time, of a particular software. Yeah,
it definitely gets a bit painful in terms of that, because they're just, it seems like every day there's new vulnerabilities out there, and I think that's what we forget about with when we talk about things like the knowing what's on your network assets, software, hardware, etc. You need to know that stuff, because if there is a new vulnerability that comes out, you need to know to be able to patch that stuff so that you can stave off the person who's just waiting for the door to come open, and for them to put their foot in that door. So, but yeah,
you need a good release management system. And asset management as well. Not only hardware, but software too. So you know what you have, and then you can patch it quickly.
So I put a piece of news in there about Ubisoft. Looks like that came out today at 1:59 p.m. I'm assuming that's Graham Cluley's time. That's on grahamcluley.com. Ubisoft, which is a gaming company, changes user or employee passwords after, quote, cybersecurity incident. And they're saying video game company, maker of titles like Assassin's Creed and Just Dance, it has experienced a cybersecurity incident. So some of our IR brethren and sisterin and cousins are out there not having a good weekend if they work at Ubisoft. They say in a brief statement, they said out of caution it had initiated a company-wide password reset, but that games and services were acting normally. There was no evidence of any player's personal information had been exposed. I wonder what that means. So they said out of an abundance of caution, or that out of caution. So what I'm wondering is maybe they found, hello, Easy Sidestep. Hey, how you doing? Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us. I appreciate you taking the time. But so what I'm wondering is what, when they say that, is it, there's some weasel words here. Is it like, did they find passwords on the dark market? Did somebody come back to them and say, hey, we found credentials on dark markets for compromised accounts at Ubisoft? Or, maybe something like, what is it? Troy Hunt's thing. Do you want to be hacked or whatever? Have I been pwned? That's it. What does it mean when these weasel words come in? I'm trying to figure it out as to whether or not they,
they want to be careful that they don't let out too much. So that's why the weasel words come in, like there is no evidence that anything was stolen. So
currently,
basically this Lapsus group posted on a Telegram group, right? Saying that they basically took responsibility for that hack, whatever it was. right?
Yeah.
And so, yep.
Yeah. So yeah, we for those of you who've been listening to my streams all this week and last week, Lapsus, we talked about the Nvidia stuff, we talked about Samsung. With the one with Nvidia was interesting. So Mr. Betcher, you might like this one. So apparently a while ago, Nvidia had a shortage of video cards. They still do, but when the initial Nvidia shortage occurred, they tried to they implemented something called hash rate limiting, which actually had a cap on how fast the card could actually go. Because those cards were being used by crypto miners, and obviously they wanted to make them less appealing to crypto miners. And Lapsus here is taking credit for basically leaking or having access to everything in NVIDIA's family of GPUs, and they said, we want you to remove the rate limiting hash function thing that they put into place. Otherwise, we're going to leak all your information. And then they said later, hey, you should just go ahead and open source all your NVIDIA drivers because, the ones out there currently suck and we want ones from NVIDIA. So low hash rate, right. Hey, Digital Warhead, what's up? Hey, how you doing? And hello, JTT Ray 3. Appreciate you coming, hanging out. So JTT Ray says, when companies are forced to disclose a breach before they can really get the investigation going, you get weasel words. No, that's 100%. I mean, it's almost like they have their jump to conclusions, Matt. We care about your security and privacy. Your data wasn't hacked or breached or anything. And then it's like, a week later, oh, hey, about that, none of your data was leaked or hacked or anything. Yeah, about that. So,
yeah. So when I worked for Phil Beyer, he he had us go through a scenario, right, with the legal department, and we basically came up with all of those templates, right? If we were to get breached, here's what would be released to the press or to the company, etc. Right? And that's how we would handle that until more information was gathered.
Yeah. Makes sense. You do need to have those canned responses, even though everybody knows they're canned responses, but it's those things that the lawyers tell you need to have in place so that way, there's some removal of culpability or something. You don't want somebody like myself just getting on Twitter going, oh, it's not a hot mess, it's fine, we're all good here, and then when in fact it wasn't, and then you're in court.
Yep. And the more you say, the more questions you'll get. So that's why they do it.
Yeah, I guess you want to keep it as minimalist as possible. So, so they say The Verge reports Lapsus hacking group, which recently claimed responsibility, implied in a Telegram group it might be taking credit for the Ubisoft incident as well. Let me see. Details would be nice. Yeah. Graham's a member of the media, so he can't really. You can't, it may be early times. I mean, if they just did the password resets today, they're still trying to figure out themselves what's going on here. So he's asking them, hey, Ubisoft, tell us what happened. Did someone log into your network with stolen Wi-Fi or stolen passwords? Did they get a database? Did a member of staff get duped into running malware? He wants details, but yeah, we're not going to get that with the initial, notice from them. So, Ubisoft is no stranger to hacking attacks. A handful of incidents have plagued the game publisher over years. So, Splinter Cell website was defaced in 2019. Hackers managed to access databases that include player usernames, email address, and encrypted passwords in 2013. And eGregor ransomware gang published what they claimed was the source code for Watchdog Legions after breaching the servers at Ubisoft.
Yeah, keep in mind, Ubisoft is a big target. They're well known. I mean, and I don't know if hackers like to game or gamers like to hack, and what the evolution is there. But one thing leads to another. And so they're even more likely to be attacked just because they're in that world,
Yep.
right? Or
Yep.
virtual world, if you.
Yeah, and you know a lot of gaming companies. I think I'd seen some gaming company just mention that they were going to start doing things like NFTs for their games and generating digital content in that respect. I think it's been backtracked a little bit because people came out overwhelmingly negatively about it. But they're trying that. They're trying these waters. So NFTs are going to be you know that's going to be the next big thing that a lot of these companies are going to be looking at trying to, these hacker groups are going to be trying to get to. If they can get to a system where they can, make up their own NFTs or, mint their own NFTs inside of a game and mess up the in-game market, then they're gonna be richer than ever before because some of these things, if they can take NFTs out of somebody's account, for instance, or resell them or ransom somebody's NFTs that they paid 8 million ETH for, Ethereum for, it's only going to get worse. So yeah, it's heading in that direction. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I put another thing from Dark Reading in the news article there. They say when IT spending plans don't reflect security priorities. I will put a link in our chat window there for everybody to take a look, and they can follow along with it. It's a 2-minute read.
So question, how
Yeah.
much of the IT budget overall should be dedicated to security?
Oh
And I'm
God.
talking probably, okay, you have your head of IT, typically security is under that somewhere.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so the CISO, let's just assume that the chief security gets a budget, which is a percentage of IT. What
Right.
should that percentage be? I know it
That's
kind of depends, but what's your target, basically, your average?
man. Well,
3%,
Well, I mean, okay,
20%?
3% of what? I mean, you kind of need to know how much you're going to. Okay, okay. So let me simplify it further. Let's just say that you have an IT budget of $100 million.
A million. 100 million. Okay.
$100 million. Um, being what it is. I don't know if that's a lot, but let's just give it a nice round number. $100 million is probably a fairly large company in this case. I don't want to say depends, but there are a number of things that you need to think about and this is, I'm sure this is the boring stuff that everybody in chat is like, oh my God, yes, I have to deal with, budget or whatever, or maybe you don't, but you want that fancy new tool, or you want that training, or you want that, that fancy,
Well, you need appropriate staff. You need
right.
appropriate tools.
And
You need
yeah, we need
appropriate.
headcount, we need tools, we need training,
Yep.
etc. Yeah. Yeah. I would say it would depend on what you can get. I mean, ideally, I would say at a minimum 10%. But it really depends on, I think, the goals of what you're trying to accomplish. Maybe like what we normally say is, you don't waste a crisis. So if you've had major issues recently, if you're Ubisoft, for instance, maybe the CISO is going to be, asking for a little bit more because, hey, we asked for X, Y, and Z this year and you didn't give it to us. And now we've experienced
What's
a
the root
cyber
cause
incident.
ultimately?
Right.
Whenever you do root cause analysis, it has to go to the very end, right? And it may be the root cause analysis of a particular breach was lack of funding for, security, and you weren't able to either hire that person or get that tool that more than likely would have prevented this particular attack.
Right.
Maybe you don't have a vulnerability management tool, like a scanner, a vulnerability scanner,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
which would have caught this,
Yep.
right? A particular vulnerability on your website or whatnot.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. The and so you see the survey that they put here. They said, so according to this data, Dark Reading survey of 190 IT and cybersecurity professionals, so only 190 people. So half say security tools, applications for end user laptops and desktops. Almost half said MFA or multi-factor or two-factor authentication, something like that. Training, 43% still want security awareness training. 43% of the 190 surveyed still think that security awareness training is actually useful. That is interesting.
It is to an extent.
Yeah.
So back to root cause.
Right.
Let's talk about that for a few minutes.
Okay.
I typically get root cause analysis where it'll say, oh, there was a vulnerability in Apache, right?
Right.
And that's what caused the incident. No, that's not root cause, right? You have to go further. Well, what caused that vulnerability to be there in the first place? Was it a lack of asset management? Was it a lack of security budget that caused them not to get a particular vulnerability tool? Was it lack of resources so to where the scanner wasn't picking it up, or it did pick it up and no one worked on that ticket, right? Was it that there was no correlation between the scan actually picking it up and a ticket actually getting created and assigned to a person that could remediate that vulnerability? You have to go much further. One of the classic root cause analysis done was on the Titanic. Do you recall what the root cause of the Titanic disaster was when they finally did it? Probably, decades later.
I seem to remember, it's all kind of a blur. I remember some lady not sharing a door with a guy and, shoving him off, and then he ends up freezing and drowning. But yeah, no, I'm kidding. I've heard of this before, and it had something to do with the type of iron used in the rivets.
Yes, exactly. It was the cheaper rivets that they used. If they would have used the right rivets or bolts, I don't recall whether they had the option to use bolts to put together the outer shell of the boat. They say that it would have held.
Right. Wow, that's interesting.
But somebody made that decision to not use, I guess, maybe to save money, or maybe there weren't enough materials for those stronger rivets at the time. I don't know.
Right. Well, the other thing I heard was that there was actually a shortage of iron, and so they were forced to go with a lower quality of that.
Could be. Yeah.
I could be wrong. Let me go do some.
But see, the point is, it wasn't, oh, the captain was stupid, or he was lazy, or he didn't have good time management. They didn't have enough lookouts or whatever. It went all the way back to the manufacturing, or not even the manufacturing, but the planning stages of the building of the boat itself.
Yeah.
Way back to that. Yeah. And when you do root cause analysis in security, it could go back to budget 2 years before the event happened.
Right. Yeah. So I just found on NIST.gov, the same NIST that creates 800-53, different department, obviously. But they said when the remains of the Titanic were discovered more than 3,800 meters, 12,500 feet beneath the surface of the North Atlantic, story of the liner, dubbed unsinkable, began moving from legend into scientific fact. So they have, looks like, metallurgical analysis of some of the rivets, including, where the stresses were, and high concentrations of slag residue in the head area, seen as yellow, orange, and red, may have made them brittle in cold temperatures. So yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And if these rivets had not been underwater the whole time, maybe that would have been easier. This finding strongly suggested Titanic's collision with the iceberg caused the rivet heads to break off, pop the fasteners from their holes, and allow water to rush in between the separated hull plates. But I seem to remember that there was the reason that they had to use the lesser version of slag. It seemed like that there might have been a shortage of iron or something like that. But I could be wrong. But that's a decent write up and a graphic from NIST on the.
Well, it is an excuse. You can always find the right kind of material if you're willing to pay for it, right?
Right.
At the time.
Right.
So I'm sure it was more expensive to get the recommended rivets.
Yep.
And they made a business decision, and that that ended up costing
Right.
them quite a bit.
Yep.
So it usually these
Yes, it
root
did.
causes come down to a business decision.
Yep. So easy sidestep in reference to your budget question there, Mr. Betcher said it's kind of like spending 20% of budget on vulnerability management tools with no asset management program. 100%. Yep, absolutely. DFIR Jesse said another root cause universities have an issue with to which public IP space needs to be migrated to private IP space. Oh, okay. The building of universities. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, here's another. Okay. So before you believe this is gospel, this is from The Guardian, but it quotes a new article, the authors of a book that suggested that they say a shortage of available top quality iron and of the skills needed to make the rivets came to a head at precisely the time of Titanic's construction. The board was in crisis mode. In every meeting, it was there are problems with the rivets and we need to hire more people. Authors contend the shipyard dealt with the shortages by using a grade down from best quality iron known as number 4 or best. The company used number 3, simply graded best. They tested the recovered rivets and found they had high levels of slag, like we saw in the NIST thing, a result of smelting that can make the iron brittle. If put under intense pressure, the rivets made from it would have been liable to splinter. So, yeah, I thought I had seen something about that. Now, it is The Guardian, so, but it is from authors, which is, okay, maybe a little more ideal, but, hopefully they are in the, the area of the country or the world, that being England, that would have done proper discussion on that.
So with rivets, as opposed to bolts, you have to heat them up red hot and then pound them together so that they kind of form like a mushroom on either side, right? Or at least on the one side that pokes through. So
yeah, it's like a really fat nail or something with a big thing on top, and then you, while it's still hot, you bang on the other side to I can't imagine doing that work. It probably was not fun. And maybe the people who were putting the rivets in didn't even know that it was, less quality stuff.
Right.
Who knows? But yeah, definitely a root cause issue. And, if the board knew that they were probably over budget, had the most fantastic, ocean liner of the time, and we're already, 3-4 million over budget, which is huge back then. And, we need to be faster and be quicker and be cheaper.
Yeah.
And
they couldn't have foreseen what would happen.
Right. Exactly. Go pro slow, yo. It was ocean. Yep. Definitely. Not big waves. That would be what was that one movie with the ocean liner that flipped upside down? What was that?
Do not movie.
Know. It's like a 1970s movie. It was one of those disaster movies where everybody was, hello. It was one of those disaster movies, kind of like the world's tallest building had a fire in it, and it had Charlton Heston in it. And he was like, I can't believe you went cheap on, all that kind of stuff. Ocean liner movie, flipped over, rogue wave. It was a rogue wave, yeah. Wave. Poseidon. There you go. Yep. What happened? Yeah, the like it was a tsunami or something. I don't know, but it was a big rogue wave. It came and flipped this Titanic-esque, ocean liner over, and the whole ship flipped upside down. It had Ernest Borgnine in it. It had a bunch of actors. It was pretty much like star-studded cast kind of thing, and everybody was trying to make it to the the engine room where they could get out on outside. So. Anyway, that was an old ship, or that was an old movie. It was no, not 2006. That was a remake. No, 1972 film. Irwin Allen produced it. Yes. Yeah. It's the vein of all other all-star disaster films in the mid-1970s, such as Airport, Earthquake, Towering Inferno. Towering Inferno was the one I was thinking of there. Made 125 million worldwide. That's pretty cool. Anyway, so we're, I watch a lot of those older movies because, you know, AMC has some decent stuff on there. But yeah, Poseidon Adventure, actually. Poseidon Adventure. Doink. There we go.
But you can't equate the amount you spend on security budget to maturity, right?
Right.
Those don't go hand in hand.
Well, we're always maturing, right? I mean, technologies change. Well, the problem I see with this is 43% of the 190 people surveyed still believe security awareness training is actually useful. And the one thing is, I have to wonder who are the 190 IT and cybersecurity professionals. You know,
Do you think that security wellness training is not useful?
I don't think I don't think that there is anything new that you can't learn or be taught from what you've already purchased. Most companies already have LMS training, you know, that they have. You know, every new user has to go through that training. So what do? They just, you know, click the switch and say, okay, everybody's going to have to do the same training over again. You know, there aren't any, I mean, unless you actually want to pay good money for good security training, the problem is companies don't want to do that. Security awareness training is a checkbox. That's all it is. And, you know, all you have to do is say, hey, by the way, don't click on things unless, you know, you believe that. You may end up with some BEC training or bribery training or you know, depending on where you live, you might have to go through personal security training, you know, but security awareness training doesn't change much. Once you've bought it, it's probably good for about 4 or 5 years, unless it's like old Flash, you know, modules or something like that. You know, it'd be great if there were companies out there that you could come in and, you know, do that stuff, but nobody has time for that anymore. And with, you know, all of us being disparate, you're not going to sit people down in a, you know, conference room or an auditorium and, you know, spend half a day on security training. It just isn't going to happen. So, you know, unless security awareness training is coupled with like certification trainings, that may be the 43%. Hey, we need more, you know, SANS courses, or hey, we need more, you know, web app security courses that we can teach our developers or something. You know, I guess security awareness training doesn't always have to be, hey, you know, don't click on fishes or something like that.
I think it's important in this case, this is just one case, that if you were to get hacked and then sued, you know, the judge might say, did you do any security awareness training? And if you say no, then right, you're toast.
We have security awareness training. We make people do it every year for 20 minutes. So, you know, we do our due diligence. We have security awareness training. It's done. See, you know, you watch this video for 20 minutes and you answer questions that a 5-year-old could answer and go on. That's all we need. You know, security questions like, do you think it was wrong for Bob to click on that email? Yes or no? Yes. Oh, correct. You know.
Well, I think you're
Exactly,
skewing it a
sidestep.
little bit
Yep.
because you've been in security for quite some time.
That
So
is
it's-
true. I
it is
rarely
third
watch the
grade to
videos
use.
anymore. I rarely watch the videos anymore. I just go directly to the questions and pick the most paranoid answer. So, yeah, my
But to
boss
somebody
is,
fresh out of college that gets a job, they may know nothing about security other than, oh yeah, I use passwords and stuff.
right.
So it can be tailor made to the company, right? If you get a phishing email that's suspect, oh, right. Instead of just ignoring it, click on that little fish button that you
Right.
have in your app or whatever, and it'll automatically send it to the right person.
Yeah.
Things like that, or send it to fish@mycompany.com. Things like that.
Yeah. So let me ask another question here. So there's how many are here? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and other. So we have 11 plus an other, which is 2%. I don't know what the 2% is. It's like something probably
It's a nice odd
esoteric
number,
or-
right? It's a prime number, so it ought to
Yeah,
work.
11. I don't know what the 2% of other is, but this obviously does not add up to 100%. It's better than 100%. So they probably said, hey, what 3 things are your organization doing? Or what 5 things are they doing? What does Sidestep say? CTO leans over to IT manager. Do we check that box? Yeah, exactly. Or, the CTO's looking at lawyers saying, we do that, right? That checks the boxes, right? Yeah, it's fine. So my point here is, so we have multi-factor authentication, we have zero trust, we have security tools enabling home network connections, we have security controls for cloud services, and identity and access management, IAM, and privileged access management. Half of these things are roughly the same thing. So we have identity and access management, multi-factor authentication, enabling remote and home work connections, and zero trust. A lot of these things are pretty much the same in many
Similar,
cases.
yeah.
I don't quite understand. They should have made this a little less broad. So, oh, great, we're going to put in zero trust. Okay, we're also going to put in enabling remote home network connections. We're also going to allow VPNs. We're also going to allow security tools and applications for mobile devices. That's pretty much the same thing said 4 times. That there are, there's a bit of edge room there. Obviously zero trust means something to everybody differently, but a lot of these things are exactly the same. So it seems like the biggest thing people are looking to implement is some kind of authentication mechanism, some kind of remote access and tooling. So, those are still the 3 things that security feels they still need to spend money on. Training is kind of an outlier. So there's 4. So training, tooling, some kind of authentication mechanism, and some kind of identity management solution.
Yeah. You got to count people too in your budget.
Maybe that's maybe that's like, I need to hire more people because, we have a talent shortage, so it's hard to find people. So I'm being facetious there.
Okay, so I found an article from the InfoSec Institute, and they said that they did a survey.
Post that in my Zoom chat, and I'll post it up onto this Twitch stream.
Okay. Pause while certain individuals try to figure out how to post stuff on the chat.
It's the chat. We've only been doing this podcast for 9 years, bro. Or you can put it in, if it's in Google Doc, if it's in the Google Docs, we can put it in the Google Docs. So our Google Docs is where our show notes are usually, but with oh, there it is. Okay, got it.
And they say that they did a survey of 700 IT executives,
right,
about how much their IT budget went to security.
Oh yeah.
And the mean answer was 15%.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now to be fair, just for date lines, this is May 19, 2020. So, and they're talking about numbers in 2019, which was pre-pandemic. I'm almost guaranteeing IT spending went up during the pandemic because, a lot of companies didn't have remote access, or they didn't have, laptops, everybody was using a desktop or something like that. So IT spending did probably increased a lot in the last 2 years, but yeah, 15% still probably pretty good. IT budget went to, okay, so I said 10%, so I'm not too far off, at least pre-pandemic. So they say, as a rough benchmark, Cisco Security Report determined 46% of mid-market organizations with less than 1,000 employees and more than 250 spent $250,000 in 2019, while 43% spent anywhere between $250,000 to $1 million. For larger companies, the most common spend was $250,000 to $1 million, and more than $1 million was spent in large enterprises. I'd say that's definitely probably gone up by a factor of about 2 to 3 after the pandemic, just in the number of, multi-factor, tooling, assets, asset management, etc.
Not by a factor of 2 to 3, but you're saying additional percentage wise, like 17%.
Yeah, I would say the IT budget went up because you need to buy more laptops, you need to buy zero trust, you need to buy authentication mechanisms, you need to add you're going to buy licenses for those things. So I would say it's probably, I'd probably say it was still 15%, but it's because the IT budget's gotten larger too. So, the security budget's gotten larger because the IT budget got larger.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about the IT budget, it is massive,
Right.
When you think about
Right.
how they just all the tools they got to provide everybody a laptop. What's that? IT budget.
Right.
They have to have potentially people on staff 24/7. That's huge.
Yep.
They got to either spend to have all the resources in the cloud, or they got a data center expenditure. I mean, when you think about it, IT budget can be massive. And for security to have 15% of that massive budget, that's a lot.
Yep.
That is quite a bit. Now, do firewalls go into the security budget, or the IT, or just that IT thing, so there's that breakdown there where you're not sure what falls in security budget. Right. Is a firewall a network tool or a security tool? Right. And then you have the administration of said device. So it gets nuanced, but I still think 15% is a sizable chunk. I would hope that you're close to that in your organization. If you're about 3% or maybe 6%, you might start thinking about how to have those conversations with management to say, look, security has a lot on its plate, and we may need to think about upping the ante here to protect the organization and our valuable data.
Right. So if you scroll down in that same InfoSec Institute article, they say the other areas of investment, they say besides network and cloud security, which they mentioned, other areas of heavy investment include endpoint protection, which tracks with the dark reading discussion. I believe in that one, it said endpoint security was about 39%. They say here 76% of organizations found endpoint security more important compared to 12 months before, and 41% increased their budget for endpoint security. Employee training, actually, they call that out here in this, but this was a survey from SANS, which is...
I wish they'd be more specific when they say increase their budget. Did they increase the percentage of their budget going to endpoints? Or did they just increase it like they increased everything else?
Right.
So, I'm a stickler for details in that respect, but, because it could mean anything.
Well, yeah. And I mean, the budget could have just increased because endpoint security companies
overall company increased their budget. So.
Endpoint security companies realized, hey, more people will be coming and talking to us. We should give them premium pricing. Employee training, they said, staff skills training was ranked in the top 3 categories for spending increase. SANS is not cheap. So, you send somebody to a SANS course, this was before the pandemic. So, 2020, they were probably still doing some limited stuff online. But yeah, I mean, by the time you send somebody away to an organization for a week's worth of training, you've lost a man week of work from somebody, and it's roughly $8,000 if you did, airfare, or actually they were all doing it online then. So it's going to be about
hopefully it's worth it.
Yeah. And I mean, and the thing is, you have to give them time to study and test out for that stuff. The worst thing would be that you spend all that money on the test and the school and the class, and then they don't pass their exam. That would be bad. And then the last one, of course, was strong authentication. So, that was mentioned more than once in that dark reading about, IAM, privilege access management, security controls for cloud services, et cetera. So, I mean, it tracks fairly well. So, yeah.
Trying to find out how much Gartner says you spend.
No, you don't.
Come on, Gartner.
No, Gartner, no. Gartner bad.
3%? No.
Gartner's a 4-letter word. Gartner says global IT spending will grow 3.7% in 2020. That's one of the links at the bottom of the page on that one. So that's in 2020 though. So Gartner's a 4-letter word for me. So Let me see. Let me close that out. So, Mr. Betcher, I know you've been on every one of our streams that I've been doing the last 10 days or so. I've been doing some of the try hack me stuff, because my mentee is trying to break into InfoSec, so he's been doing it independently. He had some bronchitis late last week, so I was unable to get him on the stream with me. But I'm doing at least an hour and a half every day because part of the thing is Twitch is like, hey, you need to build your numbers up. You need to make sure that you're streaming regularly, whatever. So. Part of the things that we've been doing is training people. So I've got a couple of folks that are, regular attendees of our stream going through the Try Hack Me stuff. So do you know of any good training, and I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but is there any good training for log analysis? We might have a thing with Miss Berlin tomorrow night. She had said that she wasn't available tonight, and that's why you're not seeing her today. But we would talk about some log analysis and things tomorrow night with her. Do you have any good exercises where somebody's like, hey, here's a log file, or hey, here's are there any exercises you're aware of? Because I've been trying to do some searches, but everything I come up with is like PCAPs, which is not exactly correct. So any thoughts on that? You don't have anything?
Not really. I mean, log analysis. You'd have to get away from the, okay, how do I analyze this particular log?
Right.
More so learn about how to analyze logs in general.
Right.
Right. Take any log. What's the valuable information there that you
Right.
need? All right. Or that you want, how to get that into a log correlation tool or PowerShell script, whatever you have at your disposal. Right.
Right.
And how to trigger on whatever events seem appropriate for your company, right? So, for example, if you get if you read about you're trying to protect your environment from malware, right? And
right.
so you read about this report, this brand new malware is coming out, and you see artifacts in the article. Maybe you have the opportunity to download the malware yourself and look at it and put it in a VM and see what happens, right? Then you can take whatever artifacts are given to you and put that into your SIM or your script or whatever,
Right.
and be looking for those particular artifacts and alert on those things. So you get a low frequency alert that's could be 100% of the time that if you see that particular artifact, that malware is on that machine.
Okay.
So high fidelity.
Yeah. So DFIR Jesse, apologies. I'm not allowing links in our stream chat unless it's myself or a moderator doing it. So I do apologize. If you'd like to whisper me the link, I can add it to the chat if you'd like to do that, because I would love to hear that. So all of the exercises I have found have been like US cyber range or what have you, or just there's nothing like what you would see like from a Try Hack Me or something like that, where it's like, hey, here's a dump of logs from insert JSON file type system here, and put this into your elk stack, or download this VM and run it on this, not like a PCAP kind of thing. So I just wondered if there was any way we could do that. So I think we had easy sidestep trying to figure out how to obfuscate the URLs so that they would show up in the chat without any issues. But yeah, DFI or Jesse, any thoughts there? Anybody in chat have any thoughts about potential places to go for log analysis training or exercises, because what I'd like to do as part of this stream, and maybe we can get Mr. Betcher to start, streaming as well, would be to either do some, forensics type stuff, or I can talk to, oh, there we go. Oh, I see it. Hello, Jesse. Thank you. I will pop this in. All right. So there is that. Boink. All right. So, and I will pop this into chat so everybody can see it. Thank you. There. That way everybody can see it now. I don't know. I think if you're a VIP, you also on here you can also deobfuscate your stuff. So, but anyway, just a thought. I cannot cheer in my own channel. Why not? I want to cheer myself. Makes me feel good. Anyway, so yeah, there's github.com. Busadia didn't. God, I'm sorry. EVTX attack samples. Oh, okay. That'll be helpful there, Mr. Betcher. You know all about the EVTX stuff, so I'll put that chat in our show notes as well. I'm not saying this is going to be one that we're going to post up on BrakeSec, but it might be worth doing. Yeah. So okay, there we go. So let's go look at this. Oh, it's a Jupyter Notebook thing. Do you do Jupyter Notebooks at all, Mr. Betcher?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't either. Joe Gray was telling me about those, and he's like, "Oh, they're really awesome." I'm like, I don't even know where to start with those things. So this is a container for Windows event samples associated to specific attack and exploitation techniques that can be used for testing your detection scripts, training on DFIR and threat hunting using event logs, designing detection use cases using Windows and Sysmon, and avoid bypass and noisy techniques. Those notebooks are really great. Yeah, I have to figure out actually how to use the notebooks before they're actually really great for me. So, and I don't really have any use for notebooks, so I'd have to start at scratch, I think. But,
and I think Sysmon is pretty advanced, and the Windows event log, EVTX files are relatively thorough. Now, if you want to get into things like library loads,
mm-hmm.
which can be incredibly noisy, go for it. But I would say start without Sysmon, right, and see what you can get out of the regular events, because that's pretty noisy in and of itself.
Library loads. Is this a Windows thing?
Yeah. Dynamic link libraries, DLLs.
Okay, DLL search orders.
Well, that's one. That is the search order is something that Windows has that could be exploited, by an attack.
Okay.
But typically, a lot of programs use the same libraries, right?
Right.
And that's why, if you do a Windows update, they'll update a particular library, and then all the programs on your computer that use that library can use the newest version. You don't have to deploy a new version of software to use the new library. For example, if some encryption library upgrades, right, then that particular library will be updated as a part of Windows, and then all of the applications on your computer can use that library if they so choose.
Right. Okay.
So that's why they call it dynamic libraries.
Right.
And so these loads, I mean, a program can load 50, 100, 1,000 libraries, right? If it needs to use them, or even calls upon them to potentially be used. And so you get all of those libraries in the logs, and then another program uses 80% of the same libraries. So then you get all of those loads. And you could query on library loads that are not part of Windows. A lot of programs have their own libraries as well. Right. And so that link order would go from the local, right, to the Windows base in that order.
Right.
So if you have the same library, but it's loaded from a different location, that might be something to look at.
Okay.
But that's
And
getting a
then
little bit more advanced, and that's something the EDRs nowadays can take care of as well.
please get advanced with us, please. So I'm looking at DLL load order hijacking here from
Hmm.
InfoSec Institute. So let me put that in there. I'll put that in our Google or our show notes on the Google Doc. Doink. Also found something from Tavis Ormandy, which if Tavis is making it, I don't want to like, oh my God, it's Tavis Ormandy, but he doesn't make stuff that's crap. So if he's taking the time to put it up on GitHub, it's probably
He is the
pretty
exact
decent.
opposite of crap.
Yeah. And he even had time to put memes on his readme.markdown page with the alien guy. Like, is such a thing even possible? Yes. So
So
distributed scalable fuzzing on Windows can be challenging and inefficient. This is especially true for endpoint security products. This is less of a problem on Linux, and I found that porting components of Linux and of Windows antivirus products to Linux is often possible. This allows me to run code I'm testing in minimal containers with very little overhead and easily scale up testing. This is just personal opinion, but I also think Linux has better tools. Shruggy face. So there you go. DFIR Jesse says, yep, there is a PowerShell script that can parse EVTX logs, and you have a log shipper like WinLog beat. Then it just goes to your elk. Okay. What was the name of that? When we were doing CSEC East, somebody had mentioned that they were trying to set up a log analysis tool in their house for their home network. I forget what the name of it was. You'll go back and watch the CSEC East channel VOD, and we talked with that person about setting it up. And I think I reached out to the person who wrote it. I just can't remember what the person's name was. I'll have to go and review that VOD and see what's up. So
now LogMD does parse your EVTX logs as well, and it gets
really,
to more important ones. Now I did write it to do that live as well, but we never
yeah,
used that piece of it. It was always a snapshot type thing
okay,
to where you could analyze the logs, not in a particular point in time on your computer, but
right,
you could go back, maybe a week or more, depending on if it was actually in the log.
right,
Usually, when you get that advanced, the logs will roll. And so a SIM would be a good idea to have. But if your machine is attacked, you find out in a couple of days, you could
right,
use that snapshot to find out, okay, exactly what happened in that machine. So yeah, pulling out all of the relevant logs for that you may need to determine what happened on that machine. I did have a live, version of it that would just spit out the logs as they came,
right.
but there wasn't as much use for that at the time.
Huh. Okay. So here's something that's perfectly applicable to me and maybe some others. So you're collecting a lot of logs, right? So you're collecting a lot of information about a lot of different people and things. Do you ever worry that your log retention is causing a privacy issue?
No,
Why is that?
because, well, let's just say what like passwords happen to be in the logs,
Right.
something like that. Well, I mean, if you're able to read the logs on the machine,
Right.
then you pretty much got admin on the box anyway. Windows does a great job of protecting the logs
Okay.
from attacks. I mean,
Okay.
um, it would be really something if someone, and I don't even know if there is such a thing that has happened in the past, but someone actually being able to manipulate the logs on the box.
Right. Right.
It's just that protected.
Right. Easy Sidestep said it'd be cool to do a breakdown of Log4j, how it's used, how it was vulnerable, POC with an exploit, how it's patched, etc. Yeah, I mean, it'd be good to take a look at that. I'm sure there's plenty of POCs out there for how to exploit it. But yeah, how it would you know where the vulnerable code was on that. That would be pretty good idea in terms of how it's generating logs or what have you. So, Mr. Betcher, to get back to your point here, so logs say a lot of things, right? And I'm not talking just Windows logs. I'm not talking about OS logs. Application logs can do things like say, this device was able to connect to, this system, or, VPN logs from this IP address, so roughly what country they're in or what place they're in. So your privacy folks or any of your people have not actually suggested, hey, maybe we shouldn't store these logs because they could create a timeline, or they could create a location issue where, somebody's privacy, could be compromised, or, we're not, I'm trying to figure out if is there a good way to remove those logs and still keep the information that you need for detecting things, because that's what we're having with right now. We cannot keep logs past a certain point because of privacy concerns. In this case, people don't want to be tracked, and if we store them for too long, it will potentially allow either insider threat or otherwise, or people who gain access to our systems to track people. And if we keep those logs for too long, then we run into issues where, that breaks privacy conventions. So, you've never run into anything like that where you're working at? I'm an employee and I don't want to be tracked every time I log into the VPN, or I don't want to be anything like that. You've never run into anything like that?
No, because in all the cases that I've been involved in with employee data, the company owns that data, right? So if they log into an employee device, then the company owns that data. They can they can't sell the data, right? But they can keep it for whatever use they may have in the future for that data. So if I log into the VPN from a certain place, the company can store that data just in case there may be an attack that they saw, and they correlate IP addresses, and our attack came from that particular IP. So they need to house all that data somewhere so they can do a proper investigation.
Right.
And that investigation 99.9% of the time won't happen with your data, but in the event that they need it, at least it's there. Right. Now, if you are on a company device and you want to do some banking or whatever, some personal stuff, then I think that's on you, right? Yeah. You have a personal computer, or at least you should. And while you could, in a lot of companies, use the company laptop to do personal business, and that's your business. But just know that there may be tools on there that record all these things. Now, there's not a key logger on there storing all of your keystrokes. Right. But within those EDR tools, there are the ability to store command line. So if you happen to put your password in the command line, then that's going to get stored somewhere. But typically that doesn't happen. You wouldn't want to put your password in a command line. You want to type it into a field, right? That doesn't store it. And so, yeah, there are no key loggers in any security tools that I'm aware of, unless they're hacker tools.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's one of the things when you make promises that you're not going to be tracking people, or you're trying to protect their privacy, the metrics and telemetry that you collect from them is very important. I mean, when I remember, what was it? Windows 7 or 8? It was like, the Windows telemetry service or something came out, and everybody's like, oh my God, they're in my brains, and they're spying on me, and all this stuff. And, there was repeated suggestions that it was just to make sure that the user experience didn't suck. And, to this day, there's still people that turn off things like the ad IDs and all that just because. But there's a ton of other things going on with, I mean, every time you get a crash, you get a Dr. Watson, or you get a, you know, Windows error collection service system thing that comes up, or, you know, you have an application that dies, and it, you know, Firefox automatically asks you if it can upload its telemetry to you know, Mozilla. I mean, why are they any better? You know, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well,
Okay.
as a general question, I mean, who do you trust more? Um, the people who are working for the company in charge of your security, or if you don't want those security tools on your computer, if you had the choice, would you rather entrust that into having no security and potential attackers being able to put keyloggers on your machine?
That's true.
In all of the companies and teams that I've worked in and for, we don't have time to look at people's data like that. Like, oh, let
Right.
me spy on Joe or whatever and see what he's doing. Yeah,
Right.
my job is to protect the company,
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
defend all the employees, and there's just no time for that.
Yeah, my thing about people who rail against the Windows telemetry service and all that is you're using the OS. So it's almost like they have physical access to you and all of your information. They can do whatever they want. They don't need the telemetry service. They don't even need to tell you they're doing it, but they're, you know, they're trying to be upfront and telling you that the telemetry service exists, trying to enhance user experience, what have you. You know, for a company, and you know, I'm not cheerleader for Windows by any way, shape, or form, but you know, it's like every little thing they get wrong is blown up all over the internet. So they try to put in these tools to make it so that people don't have a poor experience, or being able to help measure the experience, whether or not it's poor or not, to try to reduce the, you know, the people yelling, oh my God, things got broke. So, all companies do that. I mean, even Mozilla does, like I said, with Firefox, or Google does it with Chrome, or what have you. Disabling those things, you know, maybe you're, you know, shaking your tiny fist, you know, sounds like we just need Discord to mask passwords and PII like it does with URLs and chat. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. I mean, it's like you can't stop people from putting, you know, PII and passwords in. You know, that might actually be something we want to put in our Discord. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's like you're using their tool, you're using their software because you like, you know, either you don't have a choice, or you don't want to use Linux, but it's like, you know, what do you do at that point? They can do whatever they want with the data that they get, whether or not it's telemetry, or, you know, the way behaviorally how it works, you know, what software you've got installed. They can find that stuff. It's not anything fancy. So, hey, Exploding Lemur, thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. Checked about an hour ago, so that's pretty cool. Thank you for the follow there. Who's in our users here? Let's see. We have Elysian, GoPro Slowyo, IPO ___ Lurix, Sukai Baru. There we go. Viewer of IRL, Wars of the Trek Star, or Gate Star. Okay, there you go. So what I haven't figured out yet is we have a ton of users in our Slack chat, or our stream chat, but we only have so many viewers. I don't know if it doesn't seem like it translates well. I need to go in and do some discussion on Streamlabs for that stuff. So, Mr. Betcher, you should learn how to use Streamlabs. It's kind of fun. I won't lie. It's pretty fun. So, but anybody have any thoughts or questions about privacy or security or anything? You know, I forget that, you know, we've got folks that have questions, or there are no stupid questions. You know, if you feel like you need to, you know, whisper it to me, that's fine too. I have my phone screen up here with my portable, you know, social whispers and friends here. So, anyway, so, I don't know. Let's go find one more piece of news to talk about. Do you have anything you want to talk about specifically, Mr. Betcher, about news? Anything that you saw this week that, you know, was surprising or not surprising?
No, I haven't been keeping up.
Let's see. A lot of stuff about, obviously, Ukraine and Russia. Moscow is going to issue HTTP search for Russian websites. DuckDuckGo downranks its sites to spreading Russian propaganda. 10x increase in cyber attacks on Ukraine. Duh. Let me see. Anybody in chat have any interesting news they want to discuss? So, let me see. Port Swigger mystery challenge. Yeah. So anyway, I've been doing the Try Hack Me stuff during the week, 90 minutes or so. And we talked about I'm sorry. I've been saying this wrong for the past 5-6 years. I don't know if anybody's just been too kind to, correct me or not, but IDOR, the IDOR stuff, I was calling it indirect object reference. It's actually insecure direct object reference. There's a big difference. Normalize personal threat modeling to reduce paranoia. Yeah. In what way, Sidestep? That's an interesting question. That was an interesting thing. Who was that the other day? I think it was Ray Redacted had posted a video or a picture of his kid, and somebody had replied back to him, "Hey, what are you doing? You're showing your kids and stuff all over the thing." And he was like, "You got to know your personal threat model. Some people, you don't ever want to put your kids up on there because, depending on how much, your risk is, it, may make sense. But yeah, it seems like you have to know your own personal threat model and what you feel comfortable posting on the web. You can't just assume everybody is all the same. So is that what you're talking about there, Sidestep? Anyway, so I'll let Sidestep answer that. So insecure direct object reference was what I was going through with Try Hack Me, and I actually I learned quite a bit. One, about how the UI works on Try Hack Me, because it was a little different. Oh yeah, cool. All right, good, Sidestep. I appreciate that. If you have any other thoughts or comments on that, please let us know. But yeah, it was interesting to go through that, and I'm doing this only because there's a lot of folks out there who are still trying to break into the industry, and we had a discussion about that on Twitter today about certs and everything. The old chestnut, certs versus no certs. But we talked about the 3 different ways to do IDOR, and what is to be gained from that, and finding files on the system, doing .. You've not done a lot of pen testing, right? I'm not saying, I'm not making fun, but everybody comes from a different area of InfoSec. So have you had to deal with any IDOR or anything like that? Have you had any experience, making that happen, pulling Etsy password off of a device with a PHP script that's designed to do something else?
No, not much. I mean, just the basics, but
yeah.
Right. To learn how it's done.
Yeah.
Different techniques, OWASP stuff and
right.
fuzzing, just the basics. Right.
Yeah.
So I know of all of them, and I've done some of them. So
yeah. What I'd love Try Hack Me to do would be eventually to get down into the bits of like get PHP and show us what is a bad way to code that, that PHP script or whatever. What caused that error inside that get script or what have you to make that happen? It's like, it's easy to say, well, it's a PHP script that caused the issue, or it's a Python script that caused the issue. But
you mean what's the root cause?
What's the root cause? Oh man, we're right back to look at you, man. I did not realize you got me there. That definitely is, yeah. Wow. Yeah. The problem is I don't know if these logic flaws, and that's what it's an access control vulnerability, but it's a logic flaw in that I don't think automated script or code reviews would actually find a lot of that issue. I mean, they could potentially, give you hints that there might be something going on there, but there's a lot of logic flaws that we talked about in TryHackMe that automated code review wouldn't find, or would completely bypass or miss. And but yeah, so
So
we had
that's why
some
you have the layers, right? You
right,
have dynamic analysis and static analysis. Static would be the bottom layer, dynamic next. Then you need some human element there.
right,
So that's why you do the bug bounties and the pen testers and that.
yeah. Yeah, the thing that gets me though is I've seen a lot of people say that the manual pen test is just I run it through a different code scanner. You know.
Oh, yeah, that's why I'm not a pen tester, right? Because I know that I know that in order to be a good pen tester, you have to be really good, right?
Right.
You have to be legit,
Right.
right? Because I don't want to be a pen tester and then I'm sitting there, just running automated things to check for cross-site scripting,
Right.
right? For some pen test puppy mill, right? So
Yep.
in order to
Well,
be a good pen tester, you have to be really good. You have to really know your stuff. You have to do a lot. And the best pen testers are those that came from defense
yeah.
or came from IT or development. Right. So, um, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, if I had a
side
passion for it, but I
yeah.
don't.
Well, so let me ask you a question. What do you do for you are a developer, you write code. What I mean, do you have a code tool that you use to look through your code, or do you just naturally write bug-free code?
Well, I'm not a developer,
Yeah, you are
right?
a
With the
developer.
exception of the one tool.
Right, but you write code, right?
Yes.
So you follow good coding practices, or you just never have any bugs in your code?
Well, you need to make sure that you have good. Well, for one thing, LogMD is only used by the defender. And if it were used by an attacker, I mean, you can't really attack it because it's not running right
Okay.
on a machine. That's why I said, I don't have code actually running all the time and
Right.
and feeding a SIM, all these things. It's a one time you run it, it analyzes the logs and done. Right. So there is no input um, validation that needs to happen or output
Right.
encoding that needs to happen because it's not something that would be ripe for an attack.
Right.
It's just a tool like um, if I run a PowerShell script one time to sift through something, right?
Right.
Logs, that would be it. So no, I
Okay.
don't have to really worry about secure coding in that respect from a development perspective, but I do have to worry about it when it comes to securing the company I work for.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, code review, especially manual code review, is time consuming, and I mean, it's very similar to how a SOC analyst would be just staring at logs all day. After a while, it's like
Yeah.
you can only do so much per day. So if you've got, a huge commit of, let's say it's 5,000 lines of code, you may only be able to look through 500, 750 lines a day on average. And that's assuming you're doing, what's necessary to,
Well, that's why
do
there's
that
software to do it
optimally.
for you, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And the good pen testers are the ones that are going to be using things like Zap and Burp, right? And
Right.
they're going to be manually looking at how your website interacts with a real person and see if
Right.
they see anything interesting that they might want to do a deep dive down because you've got this list of things that you do and if one of those particular things doesn't look right they can go down to the next level and they've got this whole suite of things they can try there and
Right.
then once they drill down 5 or 6 levels, which is something that a dynamic analysis tool may not be able to do unless it was AI or something like that, which
Right.
I don't think has been invented yet, but
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it takes a real person to get down to the nitty gritty and somebody skilled and experienced. right, to do a great job of that. And that's why you have the bug bounties and the pen testers come in at the end.
Yep. So Sidestep had mentioned about our threat model stuff and what is necessary. So paranoia is a real problem, and personal threat modeling can help you overcome it. It's kind of like a way to think about any type of danger in an organized way. All right, so let me see if I can say this correctly. I think a lot of people overestimate their importance. Yes, I think that's how I want to say it.
So when asked, most people say they're 80% of people say they're smarter than most people.
Right.
Which is mathematically not possible.
Right. Yeah. And my thing is, and I know that I'm not important to Microsoft. I mean, no way, shape, or form. My personal threat model is that, and I'm not saying, well, I don't have anything to hide. Yeah, I have things to hide, and I will find ways to not do things that might put me on a radar of something. But if I assume that everything I do is being looked at by Microsoft, like they have one person dedicated to watching everything I do on my Windows box, and oh no, if I don't turn off the telemetry service, oh my God, Joe Bob Billy, whoever works at Microsoft, who's dedicated and assigned to just following Brian Brake around, is going to see what I'm doing. Actually, that's one reason I don't have cameras in my house. Or I have a camera in my Tesla. There's a dash cam up here on top that they say they can turn it on. So yeah, it does skeeve me out a little bit, and I have thought about putting something over the top of that. But knowing my luck, I would do that, and then I'd get rear-ended, and I'd be like, oh, great, I've got video of me not being an ignorant dumbass driving with my knees. Oh, wait, I covered that with a camera. It's almost like the same reason that we have, we ask for cops to have body cams, and, it's to protect them and to protect us at the same time. So these cameras, especially in cars or something, have a different role than if you treat it like a 1984-like device inside your house. I don't want a camera in my living room because I told my wife, I was like, I want to have the option of walking around naked without ridicule from, the camera companies. And she gave me kind of a stink eye, and I was like, look, I like to have the option. Okay. I want to, but I think it just, like you said, it's your personal threat model. If, and it, once I realized that Microsoft is not after me in particular, they don't have rooms full of people assigned to follow people, or, to each person in America doesn't have a Microsoft employee following them. I started just not caring anymore because it was just painful. Now, there are places in the world right now, even where it's like, you got to have some kind of scrutiny. You got to have some kind of, personal threat model there where you have to protect yourself. I think I just saw Twitter just opened up a Tor site, because there are folks in the Russian Federation that cannot safely tweet things out right now over normal channels. So, yes, in that case, maybe you do want to have a burner phone, or maybe you do want to be able to, hide yourself using Tor, which is completely, yes, 100%. You should definitely do that. If you're going to DEF CON, I wouldn't worry about the burner phone, to be honest. I also wouldn't worry about, putting your credit cards in a Faraday cage or something like that either. I mean, turn off Wi-Fi, turn off Bluetooth. If you really want to be weird about it, turn off all of your, power your phone off except certain times of the day. It's just really a personal safety thing. And what is your personal threat model there? So, but yeah, Mr. Betcher, you're absolutely right about the, all of that. So, I think I'm almost out of stuff to talk about. I put the malware traffic analysis.net link in chat. For those of you who want to play around with potentially Emotet or Dridex or examining infection traffic from an EK or something like that, Be my guest. Just remember, there are malware samples on that site. If you want to play around with indicators of I'll put this in your chat window too, sir, just in case you have some spare time and you want to test LogMD against some evil shite right there. So ideally, I'd love to go through something like Chris Sanders' book on traffic analysis using Wireshark. Maybe we'll do that as part of a book club or something like that. But yeah, malwaretrafficanalysis.net's an excellent site. They also have a really good Twitter that puts out a bunch of IOCs and threat intelligence. Speaking of threat intelligence, we have our Slack, our BrakeSec Slack has a threat intelligence, threat hunting channel. The Discord also has a threat intelligence / hunting channel as well. So you can, go in there and hang out with folks and, post up IOCs or, URLs that are being naughty, and do what you can to help your fellow, defenders stay safer. So, Mr. Betcher, can I count on you for joining this Discord, or are you still not in on Discord yet?
I can join. Just send me the info.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you an invite. I'll make you a moderator too, so you have access to more channels. We do have some subscriber-only channels. We're working on those. So if you're a subscriber, like, let me see, like Cole Alt Delete, who just used their Prime sub to subscribe to us, we can add you to our subscriber only channels. If you're Patreon, we just set up a couple of the roles to allow for Patreon. If you are a Patreon donor at a lower rate than the $10 rate, which is the advisory one, just let me know. Send me a Slack or something, and I'll add you once you join the Discord. That's a lot of the stuff that Slack misses, like the logic there to be able to go, hey, I'm a Patreon supporter. Please give me access to special channels and stuff. The other thing I'm looking at doing is, setting up Discord to do classes and stuff like that, like what Joe Gray's doing for the Ascension. Maybe getting back to having somebody coming in on the reg to do some Discord stuff with us, with a large group. And eventually getting rid of the Zoom, because Discord apparently does fairly well once you start getting boosted with higher quality audio and video. So I'm looking forward to that. So that will save us on some costs and stuff, just in the interim here. So, Mr. Betcher, do you have anything else we want to talk about before we go?
Well, there's an article about. It says Russia's sandworm hackers have built a botnet of firewalls from Wired.
What? Really?
And they're using, let's see, what is it? WatchGuard firewalls.
WatchGuard firewalls. News. Oh, yeah. Okay. I have the same, I think, from ZDNet here. So Control C. Control V. There you go. Yeah, Sandworm. Yeah, Sandworm Hacking Group. So, yeah.
Are these retail firewalls?
I don't know.
If so, that could be a big deal because...
Yeah. Let me see. I have not heard. Cyclops Blink is what they're calling themselves, attributing it. The malware is called Cyclops Blink, attributing it to Sandworm. Let's see. Has been active since June 2019, and like VPN filter before it, target is described as indiscriminate and widespread with the ability to gain persistent remote access to networks. WatchGuard firewall devices. Yeah. WatchGuard. That's one I've never heard of. WatchGuard Technologies, network security, secure Wi-Fi. Okay, there we go.
They were informed by the FBI on November 30th, 2021.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Well, they have all of the secure iconography there. They've got a lock, and they've got some fancy, swirly stuff going on top, unleashing security. Yeah.
Yeah, and you need a dang firmware update.
They've been They've been top rated in 2020 by a bunch of companies I've never heard of. So the Channel Co, CRN, Security 100, something called TR, top rated 2020, Network Products Guide, IT World Awards 2020. Never heard of these things. So they're really good somewhere. So yeah. But yeah, so it's kind of interesting. They must be fairly widespread because they did make the news. So let's see. They take steps to remove malware, which has been detailed by WatchGuard. So they wrote it. They have a write-up on their own website about that. Detection.watchguard.com. Doink. And put that in the chat window here for everybody. There you go. WatchGuard released a set of Cyclops Blink detection tools. Wow, okay. Each tool provides immediate and accurate diagnosis to let you know if your firewall appliance is infected. Use this information in this table to help you decide which tool is best for you. Okay.
So who are WatchGuard's customers? WatchGuard is a B2B company providing enterprise-grade cybersecurity technology, including industry-leading network and endpoint security, secure Wi-Fi, multi-factor authentication, and network intelligence products and services to small and mid-sized enterprises. That's probably why you haven't heard of them before. It's just B2B.
Yeah. So yeah, they have various tools here. Apparently they had to create 3 different tools for Blink detectors, WatchGuard System Manager, Cyclops Blink Detector, Cloud Cyclops Blink Detector. Sounds like it might be like a cloud-based firewall solution.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah, and they do have an appliance here. It looks like it directly queries the appliance. So yeah, it looks like some kind of network stuff. Download the diagnostic log file from the firewall appliance. Visit Cyclops Blink Web Detector. Upload the diagnostic file. So the diagnostic files will do something to tell you if you have been owned up left and right. My thing is, though, if WatchGuard is being used as a botnet, apparently the botnet's not smart enough to do things like change passwords, modify configuration files to lock people out, or do something like that.
Well, you don't want to, because if it'll be more easily detected that way. If you lock someone out,
that's true.
They won't be able to get in, and then they'll figure it out. But if you don't lock them out, they'll just think normal day-to-day business. And these distributed denial of service attacks aren't going on constantly. So they want to hack into the firewall, wait until they get a lot more firewalls, and then when the opportunity arises, they attack at once, and then it's done. They still have access to all their firewalls.
Huh. Okay. Wow, that's quite interesting. Okay, yeah. So detection.watchguard.com is the site, and they talk about remediation to restore your appliance to a clean state and update it to the latest version of the OS firewall. You'll need to update the passphrases for status and admin, device management accounts, and replace any other secrets, credentials, and passphrases configured on the appliance. Make sure the policies that control firewall management are configured so that unrestricted access to the internet is not allowed. This is recommended best practice. Okay, so it almost looks like that their admin panels are exposed to the internet, and the best practice is to not allow the admin panel to be remotely accessible from the internet.
I don't know if that's true, that it has to be in order to be attacked and compromised, but certainly the firewall itself should not have access to the internet unless it's a gateway firewall, which
no admin management panel should be accessible from the internet. That's pretty much a recommended best practice. I think firewall OS people, this is the problem that I have with a lot of security tools. It's like, don't allow that in the first place, and then you won't have a problem. Because how many hours are people having to unscrew up their firewalls because Cyclops and them allowed, what's this? Oh. Sidestep. Please do so. That makes me unhappy. Okay. Yes, please.
Come again?
Yeah, send me a whisper. Sidestep said, looked into the Twitch users versus viewers thing. It sounds like there's auto-joining chatbots to harvest info, followers, etc. There's a common list of them you should be banning. Apparently, I can DM you the link. Okay, yes, very much so. And that'll get you a subscription, Mr. Sidestep, or sorry, Sidestep. I don't want to assume pronouns, so... yeah, Sidestep, that's going to get you a subscription there. So just keep an eye out for that if you aren't already. Cool. Yeah. So, yeah, they give you 4 steps on how to fix all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, okay. Yeah, mine is he, him as well. Mr. Betcher, I believe, is a he, him as well. We need to stop making appliances like this that allow the capabilities for admin device account management directly from the internet. It should just not be an option. There is no
and if it
reason.
detects that, it'll just not work. Pop up an error that says, "You've misconfigured this device. Please refer to the instructions."
I would not even give them the option to say, okay, the admin panel, how do you want to connect? Oh, I want to connect it to, don't even give them the option to do so.
Yeah.
Make them jump through a bunch of hoops if they want to make themselves insecure like that. There is no good use case to allowing an admin panel to be accessible directly from the internet. There just isn't. So, yeah. Yeah, it sucks. So, anyway, yeah, I think we're good for this week. I think we've been ranty enough. Sidestep, yeah, please send me the, if I can't find the list of chat server bots, then I will do that. I do apologize if people are actually watching this and, it's probably all these people. I'm like, hey, good to see you. And it's like, burp, like all these like Final Fantasy 14 sticks folks and whatever. So we'll see. I am learning, so I appreciate everybody learning with me and, teaching me how it works. So, but yeah. Mr. Betcher, we've seen it on the crawl, but how can people find you online if they are looking for you?
Yeah, log-md.com is my website, and @BetcherPwned is the Twitter.
Okay, very cool. Hopefully Miss Berlin will be back with us tomorrow. I want to do hopefully an hour and a half with her on log analysis as well, from a different point of view. She said she could do like 8 hours on this stuff, so I was like, yes, let's get at least an hour and a half and get you introduced to the world here. And so yeah, you can reach out on Twitter for an invite to the Discord. You can also use the Discord link that I put in the stream chat. We're building our community. We're building it in a safe manner, which is why we enabled the bots and the bot management and the code of conduct and all of that. We are also implementing things like rate limiting on posts. So, you're not going to be able to just post up anything you want. And we are asking for verified emails, but not necessarily verified phone numbers, because I know some people are against that. So cool. All right. Mr. Betcher, thank you, sir. I hope to see you next weekend, on the same time. And hope people found value in this. And if you did, and you're watching, please feel free to send us some love in terms of bits or subscriptions or what have you. So thanks everybody for being here, and we'll see y'all next week.
Bye.